there's any particular tips you want to share with the audience about, personal development.
Sure. And as long as we stay open to that and we keep looking, we eventually, all of us, and you're proof, as well as other students that I've had, you're proof that you can do this.
Hi, Joe. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Nicole. It's great to see you as well.
Yes. It's been a while. So tell me about your YouTube channel. I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. How do you work with people?
Well, so that's a good question. What I do professionally is on the corporate training side. And what I realized is that a lot of individuals don't have access to, their company deciding to pay, hundreds or even thousands of dollars to train them, as well as maybe a lot of people don't really work for organizations at all. Maybe they're at home trying to figure out how to get started. So that led me to create this idea of the YouTube channel that's all about self-development. It's all about helping people accomplish whatever it is that they're looking to do in life, their goals, their, ideals, or whatever's of value.
That's awesome. And I know, we all have different blocks in the way. We all go through different processes to getting to where we want to be. Where did this passion come from for you? What sparks you in this area?
In all honesty, I think it has to do with my background. I tell my daughters this, and I tell anybody that I talk to when they ask me, well, how'd you get into this and why do you do it? Basically, when I reflect back on my life, I did not come from a wealthy family. I came from an immigrant family. We didn't have a lot. We didn't know a lot. So when I grew up, I didn't get a lot of guidance and support. But what I realized is there was some simple strategies, ideas that we could all apply to actually get better. I mean, the world around us is a gift. It's a great opportunity. But if we don't know how to take advantage of it, that's a challenge. So for me, when I realized that, I can do this and I studied it, that's what ultimately led me into the training. And that's what ultimately led me into all this space of wanting to help people. Because at the end of the day, most of us, we don't know how to do it. We don't know, what are the right behaviors? What are the right skills? What's the appropriate attitude? These are things that we learn over time. So, it led to where we are today.
That's amazing. And I know exactly what you mean with training, right? Like we're both in training and I go through the same thing when I have like a group of sales reps. I know what it is. Like you've always got those individuals that are willing to learn and grow. And then you've got other individuals that, it doesn't matter. They think they know everything and nobody knows everything. There's always steps you can take to get better. And you and I met actually way back when you were doing like leadership training, and I took your program and I really loved it. It was amazing. Yeah. Like you're a really amazing presenter. Like so much value there. Thank you. So yes, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you brought up the idea of leadership training. What's really interesting or funny in a sense about leadership training is that leadership training and life training and success training, they all actually intersect. There seems to be this common thread through all of them. So the ideas that you and I talked about many, many years ago apply equally to, whether you want to start your own business or whether you want to be a better sales rep or whether you just want to be a better partner in your relationship or in your family. The key ideas are consistent. And that's the beauty of training. Everything, and this already, everything that you and I teach someone or that any trainer teaches someone is valuable. It's meaningful. It doesn't just apply to, this particular situation, but it applies across the board, which is great.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I've seen you like in different ways. So it's like, it's all coming back to me now. It's like, it's really cool. It's been what, like 20 years or something, 15 years? Oh my God, I'm getting old.
Yeah, I know. I've been like yourself, probably in the training development space for 25 years plus. So,
let's get into the personal development, because this is the focus right now.
Sure.
How do you help individuals in this area, without, giving all the details away? How do you do it?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And, I have one particular client that I'm working with currently, and they're in the, high-tech manufacturing side. And they saw this, let me back up a bit. They originally did an engagement survey, and the feedback from a lot of the frontline management wasn't very good. So after they hired me and we talked about strategies to do it, 4 years later, they repeated, or 3.5 years later, they repeated the survey, and they had a significant increase in the engagement level from the same people. And the guy asked me, he said, so, how did you do this? And it's the same question that you're asking me, how do we do this? Well, it all comes down to this idea that training isn't about knowledge or information. Training is about using that knowledge or information to generate behavioral change. If there's no behavioral change, then the training is just a waste of money. Well, the same thing is true for what we do, what I do in the GoDoBe channel. The whole idea is to get people to realize that I need to change what I do, how I think, where I am in this world, because the way the world works, it's kind of like looking in the mirror. The universe or the world or, the business environment responds to us. It's a reflection. So if I do inappropriate or demonstrate inappropriate behaviors or have inappropriate thoughts or take inappropriate actions, am I going to expect success from that? No, it's not the way it works. So the whole idea, both at the corporate level and the personal level, is to people to realize that this is about you and what you can do to change your environment. No one's going to do it for us. I mean, look at your world, right? If we don't take the steps, nothing happens. So the key essence is really about helping people not only recognize that they have to demonstrate some sort of a behavioral change, but it's how do I do it? Like, what are the steps or what's the thinking process that I need to do? And that's what we cover in all the modules.
That's amazing. And I know, like, if we get stuck, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So, do you also work with individuals one-on-one, I should say? Like, do you do that too?
Yeah. So I do that. I've been in training development for a long time, like yourself. So, when I do coaching, it's pretty high level. So, there's a significant cost associated with it. And the challenge is most people can't afford that. And most people don't have the time for that. So what we try to do in the online series, in the YouTube series, is get people to reflect. I'm there as a guide coach and I will point you in a direction. And I even tell them this in one of the early modules that, I'm not going to do anything for you. In fact, I don't want you to believe anything that I tell you. Simply consider me as a pointer. I'm going to introduce you to new ideas, new concepts, and it's up to you to reflect on it because it's very difficult to coach someone through a video. It's impossible. Right. So the idea is to get them to realize that, I can do this. I'm going to take these baby steps. For those who are at the level where they want one-to-one coaching and, they're the financial wherewithal to be able to do this, not a problem. I do that for a lot of corporate clients now. But as far as the series goes, that's a little harder to do. Right.
And so what do you plan on doing after the series? Like all the steps that you've done so far in YouTube, like where do you want to take it next?
So that's a beautiful question because I've actually thought about that a lot. So the current GoDoBe Empower Me series will probably be around 30, 40 modules by the time it's done. And that's essentially an introduction for people to figure out some of the core concepts in leadership, some of the core concepts in sales, some of the core concepts in personal excellence, and put them all together so we can create change in our world. However, when I look and interact with the world around us today, I get the sense that a lot of people have lost, I'm going to call it a perspective as to how things really work in the universe. So there is a follow-up series that will be coming, and it's all about perspectives. The goal of the follow-up series is to get people to look at their world from a different point of view. And here, the goal is to change paradigms. Sometimes we look at a situation as, oh my God, that person's bad, or that decision was horrible, or this outcome was negative. Well, that may be true from our point of view, but what about if we looked at it from a different point of view? Maybe we come out with a different result. So I want to introduce this idea. And again, these are all about not me telling people what they should do or how they should think. It's about getting them to realize that maybe my point of view, my perspective isn't perfect as much as it's my own.
Now, I have to ask this question. Like, There are certain influencers that this is off the charts here, right? Like, I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. There are certain influencers that I really, really love because they kind of lean into some of these areas. Are there any particular people that you feel that way about that really inspire you? Or I'm just trying to understand a little bit of where this all draws in.
So in terms of influencers online right now, social media influencers, there is no one that I follow at the current time, in all honesty. I also don't want people to follow me just because they think it's interesting. The reason that we follow any influencer or want to follow any influencer or should follow any influencer isn't because they're popular. It's because the message that they have resonates with us in a way that we can then do something with it. So if an influencer says, go, do this action, the question becomes, is that the right action for me? Not, I'm going to do it just because they say, I should do it, which is what I'm sensing is happening in the world around us. So, we talk about this idea of, it's no one else's responsibility, especially not an influencer, to make me happy, healthy, and successful, because they can't do it. It has to be me. Now, if the influencer says, hey, I got some thoughts for you that maybe you haven't considered, I'm not saying you should do it, but reflect on it. And then I try it and I go, wow, that actually works for me. Great. Now we can rock and roll. Right. Otherwise, what's happening today is too many people are getting wrapped up in somebody else's point of view. And I'm
Right.
not saying it's not legitimate. It might be, but it's kind of like there's too many half truths and artificial truths and even, fake facts out there, that it's really up to us to parse through it to figure out what is correct. Otherwise, we just become influenced. We become sheep or cattle rather than the shepherd, right? Which is what we want to be in life.
Well said. I mean, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about 3 or 4 influencers that I love, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's true because you pick and choose certain parts that really resonate with you. And I just find there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that little added motivation. And of course, it's not just like, I know online, there's so much stuff. It's like, it's overwhelming. Yeah. And I do understand all that. I like to dig a little bit and find out, how people think. And that's why I posed that question to you. So if we can end off with a couple of tips, I always ask people, like, if there's any particular tips you want to share with the audience about, personal development, sales, anything of the sort, we can end off there.
Perfect. Before we end it off, though, I just want to make a quick comment. What you just described is perfect. And that's what we want to do. We want to take information from, whatever source, whether it's an educator or an influencer or, a grandparent. Doesn't really matter what the source is. And then you decide, is this meaningful, relevant? What tends to be happening now is that a lot of people don't do that. They go by popularity. And just because someone's popular, they must be right. And that's a terrible, terrible error. And we want to avoid that. You do that naturally because I know you. I've known you for a long time now, and you're really good at it. But most people in life aren't. Now, as far as the tips go, there's probably a couple things here I'm going to suggest, but it's not, to encapsulate success in life. There is no, as I say in the series, there's no shortcut. There's no fast way of doing it. It is a long-term process. But if there was some recommendations I would make, the first one's probably to maintain this idea of faith. Now, it's going to get tough. Life is hard. Everything doesn't happen the moment that I want it to happen. You snap your fingers and poof. It's not the way it works. But at the end of the day, when things get really, really hard, and we've all been through this, right? We've all had those moments where we're like, oh my God, I don't know how this is going to work. You just got to dig deep inside your core and realize that you can do this. That's where the faith comes in. It's faith in yourself. It's not hope. Hope can be very, very destructive because hope doesn't have an association to action, where faith is, I keep doing, but I maintain this confidence. So that's the first one. The second, and you know this better than anyone, Nicole, it's that consistent effort is required to accomplish anything. You can't just try it once. You can't just do it once. You have to keep repeating it over and over and over. Consistency is really the key to success. And it's also the key to learning, by the way. And the final one is this notion of adaptability. Listen, the universe, the world, your partner, life is going to throw you curves. That's okay. Just adapt. Don't say, oh, I can't do anymore. It's too hard. You know what? Find a way. There's always a way. I like to say that there really is a solution to every single problem that's out there. You may not like the solution. The solution may be hard to do, but there is a solution. And as long as we stay open to that and we keep looking, we eventually, all of us, and you're proof, as well as other students that I've had, you're proof that you can do this when you set your mind to it. So faith, consistency, and adaptability, those are going to be the 3 little short tips that I can give to anyone right now.
Awesome. I love it. That is so, I wish we talked about this right from the beginning. I love it. It's great.
My pleasure.
And what is, what's your YouTube channel, just to end off?
So they can either search my name, Joe Gaskovski, or it's GoDoBe, all one word, Extraordinary. And then you'll be able to find it there.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Nicole. Hope to see you again soon.